feel watching it all on Thursday night?
I was delighted, like really, truly delighted for Liverpool. It's a fantastic story. It's a fantastic an ending to it, and with the COVID-19 fiasco where they had to wait an extra period of time, even though we all knew they were going to be champions elect, it just added a great kind of a better feel to it for me, to be honest with you. Obviously, Dan spoke there fantastically about what it means to all the Liverpool people who had to wait 30 years. But I found myself the last couple of days thinking it's eerily similar to what Manchester United are going to go through or going through at the minute. And I remember, I think it was Kenny Dalglish said on Thursday night that when they last won the league, he never ever envisaged that it would be 30 years. And I think if we said something similar now to Manchester United, maybe 30 years is a bit harsh. I know I'm probably going to upset a lot of Man United fans. I'm not a Liverpool fan, or I'm not a Man United fan, but it's just eerily similar. And I think Man United have just lost their way a little bit, and they had such a fantastic period over the last number of years that they need to do some serious rebuilding as well. And look at it, the type of character it took in Jurgen Klopp coming in to take a club that was kind of a little bit, I won't say a little bit of a mess, but they were searching and they had the added pressure of having to wait 30 years. And look at his personality and what he's done to bring the whole city together. And he's such a likeable fella as well. I mean, if you play for him or you're playing against him or you're just watching him, he says all the right things. He's thoroughly decent man, and I'm really happy for him, and I'm really happy for the people of Liverpool. But I just found myself yesterday drifting off thinking about the similarities with Man United.
On that though, is football so different now that we probably wouldn't see a gap for someone like Man United for as long as that, because it probably is a lot easier these days to just go out and buy a title at some point. If United were to get maybe 12, 13 years down the line, they haven't done it, do they kind of just think, right, let's just pump the money in here and go for it?
But I don't think Man United can compete anymore. You've got teams that are state-backed, and Man United in the 90s were pretty much the wealthiest club in the UK, and then if they wanted to, they could just go out and buy the best players. They did it all the time. They went to Leeds, they took Cantona, York, Cole. If someone had a good season, they just went in and took the best players. They haven't got that financial muscle anymore, and other teams aren't, as desperate to sell. You look at today's market, Man United just go and buy Harry Kane. I remember Roy Keane said something similar, just go and buy him. It's going to cost you 200-300 million. Back in the day, it was 20 or 30. So I think that Man United have kind of faltered a little bit, and they've fallen behind and got themselves in a little bit of a mess with a lot of players there that shouldn't be there, on contracts they shouldn't be on. They're not going to be able to shift them. And Man United just can't pour the money in, like, say, Manchester City, or, if Newcastle get taken over by the Saudi crowd, then, I just don't think Man United could compete financially with them, and it's not as easy to do what they did in the 90s.
Dan, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to know. I mean, they still obviously are still a massive global operation, Manchester United, but that can change pretty quickly. I mean, I guess, prior to 1993, they'd had their own long famine. I think I saw someone refer to that in the coverage in the last couple of days, that I think actually it might be in the Simon Hughes piece about Liverpool, actually, or maybe it was somewhere else, actually. It might be a piece in the Examiner, actually. But, referring to, how it was almost unthinkable to, I think, Liverpool fans in 1993 almost, that a club could go that long, and then look what happened to them. So I guess it can happen to anyone. I see what Damien's saying. I certainly, because I don't subscribe to this theory. I mean, I know the lad spoke about it last week, that Manchester United, like, have they've got Bruno Fernandes and Pogba now, and they're finishing the season strong, and maybe they're going to challenge next year. I'm not having that at all, really. I think that's the classic. It's like people watch horse racing sometimes, and they see a horse finishing the race fast, and they think he's going to win the next day. But, like, he's miles behind, like it's always deceptive. You think, they might have turned the corner. Like, they have a massive points gap to build, and certainly, it does seem like, structurally the club has a long way to go. I'm not sure if it'll be that long, though, purely because I think the slight difference that you have now is that the Premier Elite, they big change in recent years. It's something I wouldn't be mad about. Is even the top 4, 5, 6 clubs, they get a greater share of the TV revenue. The Premier League used to be a lot more evenly distributed. Like the super clubs now call the shots. I mean, for all the romance around Liverpool, they are one of the super clubs. Like they're in a pretty strong position, along with Man City and the other real powerhouses. And you need almost someone to do a Newcastle style, like Man City style, sort of fairly questionable spend out of nowhere to really blow into that territory. So actually, and we don't know where Man City are going to go with fair play. So part of me thinks, and this is why I think Liverpool have a great chance of winning multiple titles, because you're thinking, well, who's actually going to really rival them over the next period of time? Like Liverpool were in a position a couple of years ago where they had to sell players, like that they were always vulnerable to losing, or not that they had to sell, but it just they didn't have the appeal maybe to hold on to, a Suarez or even a Coutinho more recently if a certain club came in looking for them. I think now Liverpool is in a very strong financial footing. It's where people want to go, and if Man City are affected by these changes, I don't see anyone really competing with them. But invariably, actually, I still think that in maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 years' time, it probably could still be a Manchester United that actually up emerges as the threat. I just don't see it happening in the short term.
All right.
But Dan, on what you say there, that like, and I do agree with a little bit of what you said. It took a Jurgen Klopp type figure to come in and spend very, very little money. I think the net spend is somewhere in and around 100 million. And they had a lot of assets that they were able to offload and make money on. I know because Crystal Palace took Christian Benteke and Mamadou Sakho for the guts of 50 or 60 million. So he was able to offload those players, but it took a man of his personality and his charisma and his aura to walk in the door and have that feel about him of, I'm going to change the direction of this club. I'm going to change the direction of everything. And I'm the man that's going to do it. I just don't feel that with Solskjaer in charge, he has that in him. There's a lot of players there. Could Man United move them? Possibly. They could make a little bit of money. But they need to be very, very shrewd in the transfer market as well. And I know that when Jurgen Klopp took that Liverpool job, he got the whole club on the same page. And the page was his page. Okay, these are the players that I want. This is the profile of the players that I want. These are the players that I want to get rid of, whether they were good or bad. I mean, a lot of people say that Coutinho was a loss, but what he replaced them with the goalkeeper and Van Dijk, he made them better. Man United, I don't see the ownership, boardroom, director of football, or manager. I don't see them all on the same page. The club is operating a little bit independently, and I'd say there's things happening behind the scenes of that club that Solskjaer's not a part of. Whereas I don't think there's anything happens at Liverpool, and I mean nothing that Jurgen Klopp isn't on top of. And I'd say the director of football and the ownership there phone Jurgen Klopp before they make any decision. Anything from transfers to changing the chef at the training ground. I mean, he will be in and all of that, and I just don't see Solskjaer having that type of personality, that type of charisma. And I think that Man United at the minute are not going to spend their way out of this. They've tried that for the last number of years. They've spent an unholy amount of money. They're not going to do it. They need to get someone in with charisma, with personality, that's going to lift the football club on its back, turn it around and say, right, we're going in this direction, and just take the whole thing with them. With regard to the second point you made there, Dan, about who's going to challenge them, I think Manchester City. It's going to be, Man United, Arsenal of the 90s for the next number of years. I don't think there's anyone else going to get in there. I think we're going to look for some fantastic title races the next 2-3 years. Liverpool have put themselves in a fantastic position financially, have an awful lot of money to spend now because their net spend is so low. Their income is going to go through the roof with this Premier League win. So I think they're definitely going to be there for the next 4, 5, 6 years, or as long as Jurgen wants to stay. And I think, all things being equal, and Man City get away with this financial fair play thing, I think we're in for a good kind of neck and neck tough tussle there between these two for the next number of years, and I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Yeah, I think. I think you want to cut me off a bit, Neil, but I just think that depends on Pep, though, I think, as well, and how all things play out. Because I think we're on the same page about Ole, Damien. I don't think they're going. I think I think you do need a comparable, with Klopp and Pep. They both took time at their respective clubs to get where they wanted to be, and I just think that with Pep, the question is, when push comes to shove, and if things go against them with UEFA, is he prepared to tough it out? Because if not, I don't think anyone else is going to challenge them.